y'all. I hope you're doing well. John Fetterman was just on an episode of Joe Rogan. I actually thought it was really good, so I wanted to go through some of the highlights and a few clips with you. But first of all, we finally got confirmation on the Joe Rogan show from Rogan himself as to why the Kamala Harris interview never happened. He said the invitation was still open, but her team wanted him to go travel to her, and they were going to limit the whole show to an hour. He declined doing that, said, if you guys want to come here and we do it just like I do all my other episodes where it's just uninterrupted, 3 hours in this studio, then I would be willing to do it. And that's sort of where it left off. Some people think that was kind of crappy of Joe Rogan to make those stipulations, as this is a really big opportunity to interview a presidential candidate. But let's just look at what happened with her and Bret Baier. The interview was cut really short. He was being pressured by her team in the background, and she was also, I think, like 20 minutes late. So I have a feeling it might have been something similar. And he said, it's not about asking all of these policy questions. I really just want to get to know her as a person. And I'm glad he brought up that point, because him and Fetterman talk about that later. So I will connect that point with what him and Fetterman talk about later. First off, one of the things I was glad they talked about and discussed was the southern border. And obviously Fetterman admits that the southern border does need to be fixed. But where he stumbles again is this border bill that they tried to pass recently. And they'll keep saying this was a bipartisan border bill that we tried to pass, but Trump stopped it. The Republicans stopped it. Well, first of all, what Republicans are calling for is border security. This bill did absolutely nothing for border security, and it allowed a huge mass amnesty. And what it would have also done was it would have tied a future president's hand, because what it says is the president is not able to shut down the border until we hit 4,000 border crossings a day. So it essentially ties the president's hand up to 4,000 crossings a day. So you can see, and it gave a few breadcrumbs to the Border Patrol, but essentially it was a giant mass amnesty bill, just wanting to bring even more people in. It did nothing for border security, and you even had 6 Democrats that voted against it. So it was not bipartisan at all. And Joe Rogan did bring that up. And what I really like is John Fetterman did have to eventually agree that yes, in fact, this was a big mass amnesty bill. So I was glad that happened in the interview. One of the funny parts that happened, which I just want to play for, I guess, honorable mention giggles, was Joe was asking him why he didn't wear suits in the Senate. And I guess I didn't realize this, but there really actually isn't a dress code. And obviously Fetterman takes advantage of that. But he finally answers why he wears a hoodie and sweats. This is what he said.
In a kind of way that I live, and I don't judge anybody on how they dress or those things. I just dress this way, and there's also practical issues as well too. Like I have chopstick legs, and I have no ass, and I can't keep hands up. and hoodies, it's like I don't have to iron that.
And now we know it's no longer a mystery. Okay, the next clip I want to show you I thought was really interesting. This is Rogan and John talking about the way in which we're used to politicians talking and the way in which Donald Trump speaks. And I find this really interesting because this is the very thing about Donald Trump that's so polarizing. It's the very thing that appeals to a lot of people, but it's also the very thing that completely turns other people off to him. So here they are talking about the rhetoric and the way we're used to politicians talking.
Polished and smooth, people never get a sense of who that person is as a human being. Well, Trump is not polished. He's not polished in that sense, but you get a sense of who he is as a human being. There doesn't seem to be a veil. There doesn't seem to be this disconnect between a human being and the thoughts. You might not agree with him. You might think he's crass or rude, but at least you know that he's the guy that's talking. These are his thoughts. And people trust that way more than they trust someone who's, polished but full of shit.
Yeah, no, it's that Scarface. It's like, word and balls.
Yeah.
I'm not
yeah.
gonna, and that's you're losing politically if you're telling people to not believe what their eyes are seeing.
Right.
Don't believe your lying eyes. That's the 1984 George Orwell thing, but isn't that what's happening? That's why a lot of people are losing so much trust in the legacy media and a lot of our current politicians, because we're seeing one thing, but they're telling us something completely different. And Hillary Clinton, someone like Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama, even Kamala Harris, it's like you don't get a sense for who they actually are because you're always seeing this polished version of them. And what they're saying, it might sound nice, it might sound political and proper and polished and all of those things, but is it genuine? Hillary Clinton, the things that come out of her mouth and the thoughts that are going on in her head, it's like they never even met to have lunch. But the one thing about Donald Trump, he might come off as brash or offensive, but you know that whatever is coming out of here, that's exactly what's going on in here. And you know that you're getting a real and genuine person, which is why it was really sad that Kamala's team didn't want her on the show. That's what Joe Rogan was saying. He was like, I have no sense of who she is as a human being. I only have this like political teleprompter reading version of Kamala Harris. I want to know who she is as a person, and that's it. But we have no idea who she is as a person. We do, however, know who Donald Trump, but it's interesting that's such a polarizing thing about him. That's why so many people love him, but that's also why so many people cannot stand him. Anyway, I thought it was a really good episode. I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye.